Hey guys, this is Holland with the Wolverine.com, and today we're going to be talking about 5 things we learned about Michigan recruiting in December. Before we dive into that, I want to invite you guys to subscribe to the Wolverine.com today for just $29.99 until August 31st of 2023. That is this year, so about 7 months. You get insider recruiting information, team information, basketball recruiting, NIL, transfer portal, and so much more over at the Wolverine.com. All for just $29.99 until August 31st of this year. You also get great access to our awesome message board community over on the fort. And now is the time to sign up with the late signing period coming up and the Jim Harbaugh NFL rumors escalating. So don't miss out. Just $29.99 until August 31st of 2023. All right, guys, let's talk about 5 things we learned about Michigan recruiting in December. December is obviously the month that is home to the early signing period, which has basically taken over as the traditional national signing day, and Michigan had a nice close, getting 2 key targets on board: an on-300 defensive back, Jair Hill, and consensus 4-star wide receiver Carmelo English. So the first thing we learned in December is that Michigan was able to seal the deal with both prospects. Jair Hill is the highest rated commit in the class per On3. Also, my personal highest rated commit in the class. This was a long recruiting battle that lasted more than a year. It seesawed back and forth between Michigan and Illinois. But I think Michigan was able to seal the deal when he made his final unofficial visit for the game against Illinois. And seeing the Wolverines top the Illini in dramatic fashion really helped move the needle there. He got a great feel once again for the coaching staff, as well as the potential to come in and play early with DJ Turner and Jamon Green maybe leaving Michigan this year. You could see Jair Hill get time as a true freshman. So I think that visit turned the corner, and then Jim Harbaugh was also able to win over Jair Hill's mother on his in-home. So Michigan beats out Illinois and got a dramatic commitment from him on signing day, where he left Michigan out of his top 5, came back a few days later and put the Michigan hat on. So a whirlwind of a recruitment, but Michigan was able to close there. In terms of English, Michigan got a valuable weapon on the offensive side of the ball. English, a 4-star out of Alabama. He isn't necessarily a speed demon, but he is explosive with the ball in his hands, strong hands, goes up and gets it, plays bigger than his size, can play inside or outside. He was a former Auburn commit. This one came down to Michigan and Kentucky. It seemed like a 50-50 battle for a few months and even into the days heading into signing day. But Ron Bellamy, another terrific job down the stretch, was able to land his top wide receiver target in English. So 2 big lands on National Signing Day. Second thing we learned in December is Michigan was able to complete a flip. The Wolverines landed 3-star linebacker HAYDEN Moore, who flipped his verbal pledge from Nebraska just a couple days before National Signing Day and ended up inking with the Wolverines on college football recruiting's biggest day. In HAYDEN Moore, the Wolverines are getting a versatile linebacker. He plays in a 3-3-5 defense and has multiple roles there, mostly an outside backer, but can play inside at the next level, rushes off the edge, drops back into coverage, and just really adequate in a lot of different areas. When you look at HAYDEN Moore, he checks a lot of boxes. He's not necessarily elite in any one thing, which is why he's a 3-star, but he is solid in a lot of things, and I think he can be a valuable land for Michigan and a valuable player on the roster in years to come. So Michigan was able to flip him from Nebraska late. It was interesting because Michigan offered him. He was scheduled to come in for a visit. He was lower on the board, though, and he ended up committing to Nebraska. Michigan never lost contact, though. They really liked him. They just wanted to see more of him. They loved what Moore put on tape as a senior. I think he had around 200 tackles or something crazy, and they went all in for him late in the cycle, got him on campus for back-to-back visits, and completed the flip. Third thing we learned in December is Michigan did not close with top defensive line target JAMEL Howard. This one was pretty disappointing. So 3-star defensive lineman JAMEL Howard out of Chicago, Illinois, decided that he was backing out of his verbal pledge to Wisconsin. Obviously, the Badgers had a coaching change. So Howard said, it's time for me to look at other options. Michigan became that top school. They got him on campus for an unofficial visit. They scheduled an official visit, and at that point, it really looked like Michigan was going to get Howard on board. Made his official visit to Ann Arbor and opted not to commit or sign. So Howard is now taking his recruitment into the late period, which isn't great news for Michigan. Michigan still stands high on his list, but some SEC schools have gotten involved. LSU and Ole Miss both recently offered. Illinois is making a hard push. Wisconsin wants him back in the class. I wouldn't be surprised if a few more schools get involved here down this stretch. Howard is a 300-pound true nose at the very top of Michigan's board. So we'll see what happens in the recruitment of Howard as we head into the late period, but Michigan not able to seal the deal there. Sticking in this class, we learned that Stanford defensive end commit Cameron BRANDT did not sign during the early period. So BRANDT decided that he was going to stay committed to Stanford, but not put pen to paper. He is a 4-star pass rusher. Michigan recruiting him as an edge. Like I said, he's a defensive end commit, but he kind of plays multiple spots along the defensive line. Michigan looking at him as more of an edge. The Wolverines didn't properly replace Collins and Chimpong, so they're looking to do so in the late period, and BRANDT is at the top of the board. Now, I guess what we really learned about BRANDT, aside from him not signing with Stanford, is that he is planning to make an official visit to Michigan in January. I do feel like Michigan is in a great spot to keep him. If the Wolverines can get past the Jim Harbaugh drama, there's no other real threat here. He's not planning to make a return trip to Stanford during the late period. Some others have been in contact, like UCLA and Texas, Cal as well, but no plans to visit any of those schools. Really, it's just Michigan. Michigan's making him a top priority. He's building a great relationship with Mike Elston. He's just never been to campus, so that's why I haven't put in a flip pick, but I do believe the Wolverines are in a really strong spot there. Again, if the Harbaugh rumors die down, then I think the Wolverines will complete the flip. But we did learn that BRANDT is planning to make an OV in January. Last thing we learned is in the 2024 class, top quarterback target JADYN Davis has pushed back his decision timeline. Not great news here for Michigan, as Davis was set to make a commitment to a school, probably Michigan. The Wolverines have largely been considered the leaders here for quite some time, but Davis opted not to make a decision in December as originally planned. So now the top 100 quarterback out of Charlotte Providence Day is looking to potentially decide in January, but hasn't come out and set a date or outright said that he's definitely going to decide in January. So not a true definitive timeline. I do expect him to make a decision sooner rather than later, but with the Harbaugh rumors popping up, there's no real rush for him to set a decision timeline. I think, like most people, he'd like to see if Harbaugh's actually going to be around. Now, I know Harbaugh released a statement earlier this week saying that he thinks he will be coaching at Michigan, but he doesn't know the future. So obviously Jim Harbaugh is not claiming to be a wizard, and saying the word thinks, I don't think is any type of reaffirmment that he is coming back to Michigan, or enthusiastically coming back to Michigan, I suppose. I still think there's a good chance that Harbaugh stays at Michigan, so we'll see how that plays out, and we'll see how it affects JADYN Davis's recruitment. But that's 5 things we learned about Michigan recruiting in December. I appreciate you guys for joining me. As always, subscribe to thewolverine.com right now for just $29.99 until August 31st of 2023.